Without me, you're nothing. Those words still ring in my ears like a gunshot. He leaned across the dinner table, his fork clinking against the plate, his voice calm, too calm. And then came that arrogant little smirk, the one that made my stomach twist. I remember my hands trembling under the table, not from fear, from rage. But I didn't argue, not then, because he had no idea what I was about to do. The life I thought I had. My name is Emily. I'm 34 years old. And for over a decade, I thought I had a normal marriage. Nothing fancy, nothing Instagram perfect. Just life. I met Daniel when I was 21, still in college, working part-time as a waitress to cover my books. He was older, charming, the kind of man who carried himself like he knew things I didn't. And I fell for it. He told me I was smart, beautiful, special. He promised me the kind of stability I craved, after growing up in a broken home with a mom who worked 2 jobs. And a dad who disappeared before I turned 8. I wanted safety. I wanted a man who would never leave. So when Daniel got down on one knee at 23, I said yes without hesitation. The first few years? They weren't bad. We had our little 2-bedroom house, our cheap furniture, our Friday night takeout. Ritual. He worked in finance, I took a receptionist job, and together we made ends meet. But slowly, something shifted. He started to control little things. How I dressed. How I laughed too loudly at parties. Which friends I kept around, and then came the money. "It's better if I handle the finances," he'd say, slipping my paycheck into his account. "I'm just better at it than you are." I told myself it was fine. I told myself marriage was about trust. But every now and then I'd notice. The way he never asked about my dreams anymore. The way he rolled his eyes when I mentioned going back to school. The way he reminded me, subtly, constantly, that he was the reason we had a house, a car, a good life. I ignored it. For years. Because isn't that what wives are supposed to do? The betrayal. The real cracks started showing the year I turned 34. It began with whispers. Little things people said that I brushed off. Like when his coworker's wife accidentally slipped and said, "Oh, you haven't been to the lake house." Lake house? What lake house? Or when I found a hotel receipt in his jacket pocket. He said it was a work retreat. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. But the late nights became too frequent. The smell of perfume too strong. The half-truths too sloppy. One night I confronted him. I stood in the kitchen holding that receipt, my voice shaking. "Daniel, are you cheating on me?" He didn't even flinch. He just laughed, and then came the words that broke me. "You really think anyone else would want you? Without me, Emily, you're nothing. You'd be broke, homeless, a nobody. I made you." I swear, my vision went black around the edges. My chest tightened so hard I thought I was going to collapse. But instead of screaming, I smiled. Because in that moment, I realized something. If he truly believed I was nothing without him, then he would never see it coming when I took everything away. That's where the game began. I started small. I played the obedient wife, smiled at dinners, nodded at his arrogant little rants. But inside, I was gathering pieces. The bank statements he thought I never saw. The hidden accounts under his name. The texts he forgot to delete from his phone. And then, the woman. Her name was Claire. 26. Blonde. A paralegal at his firm. I found out not because he slipped up, but because she did. She messaged him while his phone was on the counter, and the preview flashed just long enough. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait for round 2. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just took a picture of that screen. Evidence. Piece by piece, I built my case. The cheating, the financial fraud, the offshore account he never reported on his taxes. All of it. And every night while he slept peacefully beside me, I lay awake in the dark. Planning. Because when I finally made my move, it wouldn't just be about revenge, it would be about survival and freedom. And I wish I could tell you I was brave from the start, that I stood up, packed my bags, and walked out the door the second I knew. But I didn't. I stayed. Because revenge takes patience. And I wasn't just looking to hurt him. I wanted to destroy. The version of himself he thought was untouchable. The secret life of Daniel. The first real crack I found was in the finances. Daniel always acted like he was some Wall Street genius, but the truth was, he was reckless. He gambled. He lied. He used my credit without telling me. One afternoon, while he was working late, I sat at his desk in the home office he never let me touch. And there it was, a hidden folder of documents. Bank accounts in the Cayman Islands. Payments to women I'd never heard of. And the kicker? He had drained my retirement savings years ago. I thought it was growing quietly in a 401k. Turns out he'd emptied it into his private account, without ever telling me. My hands were ice cold on the keyboard. I wanted to scream, throw the monitor across the room. But instead, I pressed print. Page after page of evidence slid into the tray. Every lie he'd ever told me, in black and white. Claire. Then came Claire. I couldn't get her face out of my head. I didn't know if I wanted to strangle her or thank her. Because, in a twisted way, she handed me the last piece I needed. I started watching her. No, not in some creepy stalker way, but enough. Her social media was wide open, full of smiling selfies, expensive dinners, and designer bags she could never afford on a paralegal's salary. Daniel's gifts, my money. The final straw was a photo she posted one Friday night. There they were, Daniel and Claire at some rooftop bar, his hand on her waist, her lips close to his ear. The caption, "My forever, my forever." That night, while Daniel stumbled, in at 2 a.m. smelling like whiskey and cheap perfume, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. And I made my decision. I wasn't just leaving him, I was going to ruin him. My quiet war revenge isn't loud. It's not screaming or throwing plates or storming out with your suitcase. It's quiet. It's a smile at breakfast. It's a kiss on the cheek. It's letting him believe he's won, while you sharpen the knife behind your back. I started, with information. I met with a lawyer. Quietly, carefully. I brought every document I'd printed, every text message I'd saved. The lawyer's eyes widened as he flipped through the stack. "Emily, this isn't just grounds for divorce. This is fraud, tax evasion, potential jail time." And then he leaned back, almost smiling. "If you play this right, you can take everything." Those words were like oxygen. For the first time in years, I could breathe. The cracks in his ego Daniel thought he was invincible. But I started to notice the cracks, like the way he panicked when the IRS sent a letter, the way his voice got tight when he mentioned work, the way he drank more, slept less, snapped at the smallest things, and I fed it. I played the supportive wife, nodding, soothing, pouring him another drink when he asked. Meanwhile, I was recording everything. Every argument, every insult, every threat, because I knew when this all came crashing down, he would try to paint me as crazy, as unstable. But I would have proof. The plan. The lawyer helped me structure it step by step, secure myself financially. I opened a secret account in my own name. I funneled small amounts of cash into it every week. Grocery money, errands, little things he wouldn't notice. Gather witnesses. I confided in 2 close friends, ones he had long pushed away from me. I told them everything, asked them to keep records too. Wait for the perfect moment. Timing was everything. If I moved too soon, he could bury me. If I waited too long, he might see it coming, and then fate handed me the moment on a silver platter. The dinner party, it was supposed to be a normal Friday night. Daniel insisted we host a dinner party for some of his colleagues. I played the good hostess, wine glasses polished, candles lit, roast in the oven. But halfway through the evening, Daniel started drinking too much. His arrogance went from charming to cruel. At one point, he clinked his glass, leaned back in his chair and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "You know, Emily here? She'd be nothing without me. Nothing. I made her." The room went awkwardly silent. I felt every eye on me. My cheeks burned, but I forced a smile. Because inside, I was already imagining the day I'd make him eat those words. And that day was coming sooner than he thought. The slip-up a week later, Daniel slipped. He left his laptop open in the office. And there it was, a series of emails to Claire. But not just love letters, plans, illegal ones. He was funneling money through her name, using her accounts to hide assets from both the IRS and me, and Claire, sweet, naive Claire, was too blinded by his promises to realize she was being set up as the fall guy. I copied every single email, every transfer, every incriminating word. And as I stared at the screen, my hands trembling, I realized this wasn't just about cheating anymore. This was criminal. The turning point. That night, I sat on the bathroom floor with the door locked. The documents spread across the tiles like puzzle pieces. I thought about the girl I used to be. 21, hopeful, in love with a man who promised the world. And the woman I had become. Trapped, controlled, humiliated. My chest ached with years of swallowed tears. But beneath the pain, something else grew. For the first time in my marriage, I held the cards, and I wasn't about to waste them. Because the next move, that would be the strike. And when I hit Daniel, he wouldn't just fall, he would shatter. The revenge isn't fire. It isn't chaos. It's precision. It's patience. It's waiting until the exact moment your enemy thinks they've won, then flipping the world beneath their feet, and I was ready. The calm before the storm. For 3 weeks I played the part. The obedient wife, the forgiving wife, the stupid wife he thought I was. I cooked his favorite meals. I rubbed his shoulders when he came home drunk. I even ironed his shirts for Claire, though he thought I didn't notice the lipstick stains. But every night while he snored beside me, I whispered to myself, not much longer, the meeting. The first strike was subtle. I asked my lawyer to schedule a quiet meeting with the IRS. We laid everything out, the offshore accounts, the false names, the funneling through Claire. I handed over every document, every email, every transfer receipt. The agent's face hardened. As he flipped through the evidence, "Mrs. Carter," he said, "you just handed us a case that could put your husband away for a very long time." I smiled for the first time in months, the trap, but I wasn't done. I didn't just want him in handcuffs, I wanted him humiliated. So I set the stage. I suggested a weekend getaway. Just us. A chance to reconnect. He bought it instantly, puffing up his chest like he was the magnanimous husband giving me another chance. We drove to the lake house I'd recently discovered. His secret little hideaway, the one he bought with my money. I made dinner, opened wine, lit candles, and when he was 2 glasses in, smug and loose-tongued, I pulled out the folder, all the documents, all the photos, all the emails. I slid them across the table. He froze. His smile vanished. "What the hell is this?" I leaned in, my voice calm, steady. "This is your empire, Daniel. Built on lies. Built on my back. And it's over." He tried to laugh it off. "You wouldn't dare." But when I told him the IRS already had everything, the color drained from his face. His rage, he exploded. "You ungrateful bitch! After everything I've given you, you do this to me? You can't survive without me. You're nothing." He slammed, his fist on the table so hard the wine glass shattered. For a moment, I was that 23-year-old girl again, small, afraid, desperate for his approval. But then I looked at him, really looked, and all I saw was a pathetic man, crumbling under the weight of his own arrogance. I stood. I walked to the door, and with my hand on the knob, I turned back. "No, Daniel, I was nothing with you. Without you, I get to be me again." Then I left him there, screaming into the night. The fallout, it didn't take long. 2 weeks later, federal agents raided his office. His colleagues watched as he was led out in handcuffs, his expensive suit wrinkled, his face pale and sweaty. "Claire?" She was questioned too. She tried to play the victim, but the emails were clear. She had been complicit, even if unknowingly. She lost her job, her reputation, everything. And Daniel? Fraud, tax evasion, money laundering. He was facing years in prison. The divorce. The divorce was the final nail. Because of the evidence, the judge awarded me everything. The house, the car, half of what was left in the legal accounts. But the money didn't matter as much as the moment. In that courtroom, when Daniel, once so smug, so certain of his power, had to sit there in an orange jumpsuit, shackled at the wrists, while the judge addressed me as Mrs. Carter with respect. He glared at me like he wanted to burn me alive. But he couldn't touch me anymore. Not ever again. The freedom, that night, I went home to the house he once claimed was his achievement. I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on the back porch, and listened to the quiet. No insults, no control. No man looming over me like a shadow. For the first time in years, I was free. But freedom isn't just silence. It's rebuilding. It's deciding who you are after the ashes settle. And that was the hardest part of all. Freedom tastes strange at first. It's not fireworks, not a sudden burst of joy. It's quiet, tentative, almost uncomfortable. But after years of being crushed under Daniel's ego, under his lies, under his smirk that told me I was nothing, I finally exhaled. Picking up the pieces, the first week alone was surreal. No arguments, no passive-aggressive comments about my cooking or my friends. No late-night whispers about how I couldn't manage money or life. I went grocery shopping for myself. I laughed at my reflection in the mirror without guilt. I started journaling again. The thing I'd given up because he didn't understand it. I even started taking online classes, something I'd wanted for years. Python, data science, marketing, skills to build my life on my terms, not his. And slowly, I felt the heavy fog lift. Unexpected lessons. I realized something important. Revenge isn't just about making someone pay. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's about proving to the world, and most importantly to yourself, that you are enough, that you always were. Daniel believed I needed him. He thrived on my fear, but he underestimated my patience, my intelligence, and my courage. And I didn't just survive, I thrived. Rebuilding life. I didn't need a man to define me anymore. I started a small consulting business, helping women take control of finances they never thought they could manage. I reconnected with friends who had been pushed aside, who reminded me of who I really was. Even the house, once a symbol of Daniel's generosity, became mine in every sense, my sanctuary. I painted the walls, planted flowers in the yard, and let sunlight flood the rooms where shadows had once ruled. It wasn't just my revenge, it was my rebirth. Reflection. Sometimes people ask me, was it worth it? Was it worth the sleepless nights, the planning, the waiting? And I say yes. Not because I enjoyed hurting him, but because I finally gave myself the life I deserved. Because the moment I left that lake house, leaving him to face the consequences of his choices, I realized something crucial. No one can define your worth. No one can decide your future. And sometimes, the most powerful revenge is simply to live beautifully, freely, and fully, without the chains they tried to wrap around you. So I ask you, sitting there with your own life, your own struggles, your own betrayals, what would you have done in my place? Would you forgive? Would you walk away quietly? Or would you fight, smart, patient, and unrelenting, until you take back everything you're owed? Because here's the truth. Sometimes the only way to win is to remember who you are, and never let anyone make you feel like nothing again.